Hello all, my name is Andrew White and welcome to Riderwood Non-Sports. For this channel, this is an inaugural episode. A little about myself. I've been collecting cards since about 1991, so about 30 years. Started off with sports, and then within the last 10 to 15 years, moved into pre-war non-sport, mainly between the 30s and 40s, specifically to gum cards. So each episode, I'm going to go over a topic. This episode is 1933-1934 National Chicle Skybirds, which is a series of 108 cards that focuses on pilots and airplanes. So it's a really neat set. I completed the set about a year or so ago. Took me a couple years, but I mainly focused in the last year to complete it. It was one of my top priorities. So let's go over an overview of the series. So the series was issued by the National Chicle Company, and I want to thank my friend Brian for giving me some research on this. The designator for this, the gum designator, is R136 Skybirds. So the series, they'll call it 1933 and 1934 because it was issued in 2 years. So the first 48 cards were issued in 1933. They, for the original series, have a series of 48 on the back. So I'm going to zoom in on this. As you can see, there's a series of 48 at the bottom. And then they reissued that in 1934. The first 24 cards have that series 48, and then for cards 25 through 108, it has series, and we'll get to it, 144 on the back. Now what's funny is that there's not 144 cards. The series ends at 108. A lot of 30s cards. As we go through these episodes, you'll see that you can basically throw that out the window. They wanted kids to buy more cards, so they never match up to how many total cards they produced. It was just a gimmick for more people to buy cards in anticipation of them coming out, but they never came out. So basically for the base set, it's 108 cards. If you were to do the master set, which is all of the series, so the first 1 through 24 cards in a 48 series, and then cards 25 through 48 in both series, which is series 48 and 144, and then of course the rest of the cards, which is 49 to 108, it would be 132 cards total for the master. In regards to difficulty, and we'll go into a little bit this later, but the most difficult cards outside of the high numbers are the 25 cards 25 through 48 series 144, and of that, cards 25 through 36 are really difficult. I actually only have one, and I'll show you. I have a Roll Lindbergh right here, which is card 36. And that is a series 144. Most of my set is raw, but I will show you some graded. I mainly collect graded stars. I like rolls for the commons, and then, for the stars or some other cards I really like, I do like graded. So difficulty, out of 10, I would say this is probably a 4 for the base set. These cards are available. Of course, you're going to spend money for the stars and the high numbers. If you were to go for the master set, you're probably looking out of 10, maybe a 6, because that mid-series 144s are difficult. So let's go over some of the cards. Card number 1 is Putnam, and again, most of these beginning ones are pilots. So we'll go over this. Great Art Deco pictures. That was probably the biggest draw of this series for all of these is that they just have great imagery. This guy's holding a lion, Hall, and I think there's another one in here where he's also holding a lion. But most of these are World War I pilots, or pilots from the 20s. So just some great imagery. You can see what the back looks like on these. And we're going to continue. Again, Luke's another good card. The holes are cards where I have them graded. So have some, Bishop was a famous Canadian. One of my favorite cards is Doolittle. This was printed before the famed Doolittle's raid. He was a famous pilot actually before that. Here we start with some airplanes. So again, they're all pilots or airplanes. Earhart, which is probably, from the early series, probably the toughest card to find. It's the last of the first series. So, you know, condition issues, obviously a lot of these cards are rubber banded. So the first card and the last card of the series tend to have condition issues. This one is pretty hard to find in even mid-grade. Right, one of the Wright brothers, Orville. And again, just some great imagery here. Spirit of St. Louis, which is card 72, another difficult card. I'll talk about high numbers now. So as you get further along in the series numbers, the cards get more difficult. I would say high numbers in this series start at probably 85, which is McClelland. That's probably where the high numbers start, and they get significantly harder. You go from the 80s to the 90s to the 100s, and they all get more difficult. This was a tough one. Wellman was actually the last card that I needed, card number 90. But again, a lot of great imageries. Most of these are graded in here. So that's why they're outside, and I'll show you some graded ones. And again, we have pilots and planes. Toughest card from the high numbers is definitely Fokker, 108, the last card, which actually happens to be my favorite plane card from this series. There is some interesting, and I hope maybe some YouTube viewers can tell me, is that there's another variation where the backs, most of these are green, but I have seen some that are darker, almost a black writing. I don't know if anybody collects those, but I've heard that there are some variations with that as well. Okay, so let me close up the binder. Go into some graded ones that I have. So, Baron von Richthofen, better known as the Red Baron, is another star card from the earlier series. Have another Limburg, which is the series 48, which is the easier of this series. I have the 144 in the binder. And I have a couple of high numbers here. Probably my most favorite one is this. Marcietta Vickers, which is 107, which is the last card, or second to last card, sorry, in the series. And here are some other high numbers that I have that are graded. Condition issues. So, like most of the series I'm going to go over on this channel, a lot of these cards were rubber banded, so you're going to see a lot of cards that have band marks on them. Centering. Centering issues is always a concern with this. Gum stains on these. These actually, just like some other gum cards, tend to become dirty. So you're going to see some fading, some staining. One other thing to be not concerned about, but there's a lot of cards in this series that are short, factory short, specifically high numbers. So when you go through, if you start collecting these, you're going to see some that are smaller than others, especially in the high numbers. I don't believe they're trimmed. I just believe quality control was not great during the 30s. So a lot of these cards, unfortunately, came out in different sizes. So that's just something to be mindful of while you collect. So let's go over a couple more of these. Great series. I do know many people that have started collecting these. So if you want to get a start, you know, commons normally, a couple bucks. High numbers and the stars, of course, will set you back more. Hopefully you enjoyed this series overview of the 1933-34 National Chicle Skybirds. If you did, or if you have any questions, or want to talk about anything that was discussed in the video, I encourage you to leave a comment below. You can also check out my Facebook page at 1930s and 40s non-sports cards. And I definitely hope you enjoy the video. Have a great night.